if you don't want to be on camera, you can shut it off, but it will be mostly me speaking, but we'll have some Q&A in the end. So everybody, welcome to our Encompass talk on circular economy and the SDG. So let's first check the poll result. So a lot of you are interested in circular economy, some on SDG. Some of you already know about circular economy. Okay, and the third question. Okay, third question is tricky. So the official answer is China, actually. So I think that might surprise some of you. That China actually announced the ban. So it seems very impossible given how much plastic there is in China. But that is the official answer. So if you doubt that, you can go Wikipedia and check on my answer. So thanks everybody for joining that. I hope that was fun. So okay, let me close that. Okay, so let's start the talk. So today I'm going to talk about SDG briefly, and then we'll discuss what circular economy is, the relationship between circular economy and SDG, and we will have some case studies in Hong Kong about circular economy. And this talk, it will be recorded, and the slides will be available to you. So don't worry about copying everything down. There's quite a lot of information here. And I do hope you, when you get the slides, is for education use. So if you think there will be friends or students who will be benefited, please feel free to share with them. So a little bit about myself. My name is Benita. I'm the founder of Encompass. We are a social enterprise. I also do a few things. I'm a board director of AIDS Concern. I'm also helping the Leipo Chun United World College as an interviewer, and I'm also a very big diver. And diving actually gives me a lot of inspiration. I see a lot of plastic in the ocean, and I always think of ways of how to make the world a better place so we have a better ocean. So a little bit about Encompass. For those of you who are joining us the first time, we are a social enterprise, meaning we donate part of our profit to the NGO. So for example, we work with Humming Fish Foundation, which helps with the farmer in the Timor-Leste. So for our sustainable coffee event, we donate part of the profit with them. And we do a lot of experiential learning workshops and tours. I know some of you have been to our tours. And our main goal is really to help organization to achieve the SDGs. So you may ask, what are the SDGs? So SDGs came from the MDGs. Sorry. Sorry, I think somebody need to mute them. Okay. 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 Please, okay, I'm going to mute you all, sorry. So to keep this quiet. Okay, so the SDGs are 17 goals. So they come from the Millennium Development Goals set by the United Nations. So as you can see, there are goals on poverty, wellness, gender, and all that. And the principles of the SDGs are universal, transformative, and integrated. So they really aim to be for everybody, or each of the countries to adopt it. So, and the next diagram is my favorite diagram. So there are 17 goals, and how are they related? So we call this the SDG kick. So we have the planet goals, which include responsible consumption, climate, life below water, life on land, the environmental goals. And then we have people. We have zero hunger, gender, education, and health. And then we have prosperity, which is decent work, reduce inequality, sustainable city. And finally, we have peace and partnership. So the idea is we first need to fulfill the planet goals, then we can talk about people, prosperity, and peace and partnership. So if we look at SDG in APEC, these are data from 2018. Unfortunately, this is not a very pretty graph. And the reason is because if you look at APEC as a whole, including Asia, China, Taiwan, Singapore, and all that, we are far behind the SDG goal in 2018. And the worst goal we have done is responsible consumption and production. We actually digress from what we were in 2020. And if we look at home more closely, I assume most of you are here from Hong Kong, this is a survey done by the UN SN network, and the survey 1,000 people in Hong Kong about their views on SDG in Hong Kong. As you can see, climate action actually is rated very important. So now I have a quick poll for you to guess. Okay. Poll 2. So can all of you guess which is the SDG that Hong Kong people care least about? So please feel free to click on the answers. So for those of you who have attended my talk before, you will know this is my favorite slide. Okay, so a lot of gender, and then some responsible consumption, and then a few is partnership of the goal. So the answer is actually this. Okay. The SDG that people care least about are responsible consumption and production. And I always feel very strongly about that. And because I think Hong Kong is such a consumer society, and responsible consumption is everything everybody can do. We don't need to rely on the government. Everybody can take their part. And I think that ties in very neatly to what we are talking about today, which is circular economy, is how we can be responsible about our consumption and production process. So now let's jump into circular economy. And before I explain circular economy, maybe we look at what traditional economy looks like. Traditional economy really look at new products generated from new raw material. And the reason why we have so much new raw material is because in the post-war era, it become really cheap to make materials because war has made production very cheap. And then we look at recycling. We said, okay, let's take those waste and recycle them. But waste are still viewed as waste. Waste are not viewed as new product. And we rely on this economy. And maybe one example is fast fashion. You can get like a pair of jeans at $100. It's really cheap, and we just take it for granted. So what problem it makes? So in Hong Kong, this is data from 2018. We have a massive waste problem. And I think this year, in 2020, we don't have the latest figure yet. The figure is going to be worse. So imagine all the takeout you guys eat during the COVID lockdown. So that means more and more waste. And actually, our figure is lagging behind Singapore and a lot of Asia city in terms of our waste management. And in 2018, our recycling rate is 30%, which is the lowest in 20 odd years. And if we look at Hong Kong as a whole, we would need 4.2 Earths if everyone in the world adopts a Hong Kong current lifestyle. Our ecological footprint is the second worst in Asia and ranked 10th globally. So a lot of problem. And if you can see the breakdown, a lot of our ecological footprint come from food. And later today in the talk, I will share with you an example of food waste and how we can actually reduce that. So if we look at more macro now, from Hong Kong soon back to the world, this is a very complicated diagram, and don't worry about it. The point here is to scare you, how much resource we are going to are using in the world because of our disposal economy. We are using a lot of heavy metals, we're using a lot of raw materials, and we are really at a problem of running out of resource. So another example is fast fashion. I think a lot of us may now know the problem of fast fashion. The clothes are very easy to get worn. The materials are not reused. So fashion is one of the major contribution, other than food, to the world's emission problem. So what's wrong with the linear economy? As we can see, resources like heavy metal, fossil fuel, they're increasingly hard to get. And the biodiversity is declining worldwide. I highly recommend all of you to see the movie Alive on Our Planet by David Attenborough. If you haven't, it's a very strong reminder of us, and maybe we are facing the sixth extinction because of the way we are treating the planet. And the third problem is we also have the financial system might crash the entire economy because of what we do. So with this in mind, actually there's risks and opportunities. So the risk is the wages have been stagnant or falling for several decades. So companies are increasingly trying to sell things at a cheaper rate, and there will be a lot of middle-class consumers entering the market in 2030 and put pressure on our resource base. So with that in mind, what can we do? So here are some drivers for change. As you can see, demographically, we're going up. There's also, again, I think this diagram doesn't include the COVID. What does the new normal mean for us in terms of the linear model? So what exactly is the circular economy? So the linear economy, as I said, the raw material become waste, waste become, a lot of them are non-recyclable. And then we have some reusing economy where some of the waste are being recycled, but then we have this beauty. Is the raw material entering the supply chain, but they're actually being used as being raw material for the next stage of production. So the linear economy is not that much of a problem if the scale is small. If the scale is small, the natural system can actually act as a sink to our waste. But however, we already has the Earth population has reached such a tipping point that we really cannot solely rely on linear economy. And here's another description of the difference between linear and circular economy. And as a lot of us can experience, right? If you go to the shops, it's always like, okay, sell more stuff, buy more stuff. But actually, do you need that many stuff? Or can you actually rent some stuff? You share some stuff. So an example will be very good is maybe 20 years ago, if you want to see a movie, we go buy a DVD or we go to buy a movie tape. But now you can actually use Netflix and use a subscription service, so you don't own more stuff. Okay, so that's one of the business model that might work. Also design, I think, and I'm sure a lot of you agree with us, the phone we use now are not very durable. It's not like the Nokia we used before that it lasts forever. So we are designing for products that are really short-lived. And like when you finish using a smartphone, where does it end up? It almost very seldom end up in a second-hand market. Most likely it's going into a waste. So that's a problem. And the materials we use, is it toxic? Is it very difficult to recover? So these are some things that we want to think. So the linear economy is really simple. We just make it, buy it. It's predictive. It's all about competition, about having the shortest, the lowest pricing. But if you're looking at a circular economy, we are looking at a more complex system, more adaptive system, and more cooperative system. So that's really what we want to get at. And for those of you who are interested in history, here's a diagram of how circular economy has come. So circular economy has become like a popular term in the last 10 years. But before that, we actually, we talk about reduce, reuse, recycle. We also talk about the green economy. So there's a long history of that. And at the end of today's talk, I will share with you some resources if you want to learn more about this history of how circular economy has come. So circular economy in a nutshell is that we are trying to change the take, make, and dispose model to a take, make, use, and regenerate model. So the economy is that's regenerative by design, meaning the waste actually become part of the raw material of making thing. So we are not using more resources, we are reducing waste, we are reusing them, we are increasing the longevity of the item. We also move from offering a product to offering service. So what do I mean? So think about that. If you need lighting in your home, do you actually want to have a lamp? Is that what you want? Or you just want to have lighting, and have lighting in your house might have come in different form. So we want to really rethink whether we would need to really produce something to offer a service to our customer. So circular economy is a regenerative economy, meaning that we always keep the products, components, and materials at a highest utility and value. We keep them so the waste are not waste. Waste are actually like the end material can be used as raw material again. So there won't be a concept of the waste anymore. So the materials will be re-entering the economy at a phase. So I will show you a diagram shortly for what I mean. So actually, we learn about circular economy from nature. So nature, when you think about an ecosystem, for those of you who study biology, the plant have photosynthesis, so it produces food. Food is consumed by animal. So animal and plant, they both have waste. The biological waste is actually decomposed to nutrients. So you have decomposer in the ecosystem, and then those other resources such as water are also restored through the water cycle, natural cycle. So to mimic the circular economy approach, the products and services produced with minimum resources that are needed and can be completely recycled to maintain the circularity of materials. So there are a few key key things we can learn from nature. So the waste, there's nothing such as waste. Every waste can be turned into food in the natural system. So how can we replicate that in our man-made system? So if we redesign products so they can be reused or disassembled at the end of life, we can keep those products and material at the highest value of all time. The second lesson we want to learn is to build resilience through diversity. So why do we care about biodiversity? Why do we care about diversity in the system? Because if you have a diverse system, then it will contribute to the health of the system. It will help the system to support at a time of shock. So let's imagine an economy that is based on many different things. Then even if one pillar is collapsed, the other thing will have a greater absorbing rate. The third lesson is use energy from renewable sources. So in the living system, everything is powered by the sun, and in the man-made system, is there something we can think about generating renewable system? And the fourth of all is think in system. So in the natural environment, in the ecosystem, everything is linked together. We don't think about in a linear way. Everything is circled together. So in the circular economy world, we're looking at governments, companies, and societies and civil society to work together on this. And I'll give you a diagram shortly, what I mean by that. So if you're interested into knowing where circular economy come from, it comes from several thoughts. And one of them is cradle to cradle, meaning it's a biomimetic approach where the human industry is mimicked on natural process, where materials are viewed as nutrients circulating in healthy, safe metabolism. So circular economy is come from a lot from cradle to cradle. There's also biomimicry, where we learn about what nature can teach us. There's also performance economy, about how we maintain and exploit of the stock in a circular manner rather than a linear manner. And then there's industrial ecology, where we study the material energy flows. And if you guys want to pay attention, there's also a short quiz in the end that I'll test you on this knowledge. So yep, it's going to be fun. So there are a few principles on circular economy. First of all, we want to prioritize renewable input. We want to maximize our product use, and we want to recover the byproduct and waste. It looks like very complicated, and don't worry about it. There will be a breakdown on this shortly. So if we look at this more closely, we can look at prioritizing renewable input by using more sustainable design, for example. So as I said, for example, some phones are not very sustainable, very long, reusable. How can we design that? And also maximum product use. As I said, you can do sharing or virtualizing, or reuse or redistributing them, or recover them. You can refurbish them. And I'll give you a very concrete example of what I mean by that. So this is a diagram of how these different things are linked together. So in the ideal world, everything can be reused, resell, or share. So for example, in London, I know there's a neighborhood library where you can rent like a CD machine or rent a vacuum machine. So you don't actually need to buy stuff, you just share stuff. So that's the best way. Okay, what if you can't share them? It broke. Okay, then you need to maintain and repair. Okay, if it doesn't work, okay, then it broke down again, then you need to refurbish and remanufacture. And if it totally fall apart, then the only way is recycle. So the highest priority is always in sharing. And we manufacture and recycle, we require specialist thing. But so I really hope, and I really recommend this, even for myself, I buy a lot of, I buy a lot of secondhand goods, like books, secondhand fashion, secondhand bags, and I think that's very good in helping our economy. And I was saying about stakeholder. So this is a really complicated diagram, but basically the key message here is we rely on the government, because government, we really want them to have a waste reduction policy. But I do want to say, sadly, a few months ago, the legislation passed the waste responsibility scheme in Hong Kong. So that was a big blow to Hong Kong government waste policy. But on the flip side, the chief executive does announce that we'll go carbon neutral by 2030. So let's see if that will happen. And then we have we look at commercial aspect that they can have economy in repair, reuse, and recycling an item, and the individual. So we rely on each one of you, which is SDG 12, that you can recycle and perhaps bring reusable container and bags when shopping. And I think this is especially important now in our COVID times where we do a lot of takeout. So instead of just ordering from Deliveroo, is it possible you bring your own container and go to your neighborhood cha chan tang and order your food? So I think that's one way we can think of it. So okay, and now this is looks a very complicated diagram, but I will break it down to you. This is called the butterfly diagram by the Mcalpha Foundation. And for those of you who don't know who Mcalpha is, she's a famous retired English sailor. She's a very successful solo long-distance yacht woman, and she founded Mcalpha Foundation. And part of their work is to promote circular economy. And if you are interested to learn circular economy in depth, there's a free edX course online. You can take a 6-week course, and it will teach you all of this circular economy stuff. But now I'm going to give you a very quick run through what this really looks like a very complicated diagram means. So there's a green arrow and blue arrow. The green arrow are biological material. The blue arrow is a technical material. So you see there are different loops here, like a butterfly, right? So actually the smaller the loop, the greater the profitability of the system. So for example, instead, if you repair a product, instead of having it recycled, you will be saving a lot of resource and energy, okay? And there are several ways you can extend the life of a product. You can keep a product for use in longer, or giving a product a second and third life. And you can extend it by making it more durable, easier to maintain, make it easier to repair. And another principle is do not repair what is not broken, do not remanufacturing something that can be repaired, and do not recycle a product that can be remanufactured. And this is sometimes called the Inertial Principle. This diagram really try to enhance natural capital by controlling finite stocks, and you are optimizing a resource yield by circulating products and materials at the highest utility. And yeah, so I will break down this diagram with you. So let's have the first example. So let's look at the blue arrow. So let's have a vacuum plate cleaner. So it's not working well. Okay, so instead of throw it away, I repair it. Okay, I maintain it. Okay, then it really cannot be repaired. What do I do? Okay, maybe it's not totally not usable. It's just not as much as you use one. So you can sell it into put it in the second-hand shop and show it to a new user. Okay, so if the used vacuum cleaner is not working very well, you can repair them, you can refurbish them and sell it to a new user. Okay, then it really doesn't work. Okay, then you need to strip it off, and hopefully some parts of the vacuum cleaner can be rebuilt and used as new material. And when none of it can be repaired and reused, you can just shred it all to raw material, and hopefully it can be used as renewing a new product. So I hope this example gives you a very concrete example of how we can maintain, reuse, and refurbish a used material. So now let's look at the left-hand side of this diagram. So let's look at wood, okay? So let's say the wood can be used as a material for furniture, and then chipboard, and then fireboard before it is returned to the biosphere as ash. Then, for example, the plant material, you can be used to convert it is to biofuel, biodiesel. This can be used to turn into byproduct. And then this byproduct can be used as a fertilizer for making agriculture or low-grade building products such as firebox. So you can see it here, used as biogas. And the bacteria that used to break it down can be used as a compost. And finally, you're restoring things to the biosphere. So things can be used at both farming. So this is a very pretty diagram of how this really complicated butterfly diagram means. So I hope this give you a good example. So what does it take to create a closed loop? So you see the loop we show with you is closed, it's not linear, so we can reuse the material. So first thing is you can have an acquisition system. So for example, when you buy a bottle of beer, you deposit 10 cents, and when you return the empty bottle to the store, you can get your deposit back. There's also in America, there's a clothing brand called Madewell. They also offer discount on clothing if you send back used denim. So there's a way for you to get back the material. After you get back the material, you can reprocess them and also remarket them. So it takes several steps to create a closed loop economy. So what is the business value in a circular economy? One of them is sourcing value. So instead of sourcing new material, you can use old material. So you reduce the sourcing value. There's also environmental value. So you improve your ecological footprint, decrease your stress for the environment. So it helps for compliance. So for those of you who heard of ESG, so that might help your ESG rating. It also help you to improve green image. So some of you might have heard of Patagonia. They do an excellent example of that, and they are perceived as a very good brand. So the third, which is customer value, which is closely tied to environmental value. When you have such a good, very usable product, people can reuse them or they can turn it, you increase customer loyalty, you increase customer satisfaction, and there's a very good brand. And then the information value, we might not think of that very much, but actually if you close the loop, you can figure out why, what is the pain point of the product, where did it usually fail, where are things that get integrate repair. So you can get a very good useful data on the lifetime of the product, the usage patterns and all that. So these are good for businesses. So this is another diagram on the pillars of circular economy, which is similar to what we saw just now, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle. And all this actually is linked to the Sustainable Development Goal. And how is it so? So when you do material recycling and all this repair, you actually relate to SDG target 3.9, and 3 is actually health. So you decrease the number of hazardous material in the air, so it's good for your body. It also increased the youth and adult who have jobs to do this recycling and reusing business. So this is related to quality education, SDG 4. And then we have SDG 8, which is industry, infrastructure, and innovation. So because of this very high-end upscaling, diversification, innovation, we are creating a new economy. And SDG 7, which is affordable energy. So because if you're reusing stuff, you are using more renewable energy, so it's good. And then it's linked to one is SDG no poverty. So we because of that, we are trying to reduce half the proportion of men or people living in poverty. So because you can use the product. And 10 is reduce inequality. So you can sustain the income growth of the bottom 40% of population. So this is a linkage between the circular economy practice and SDG, which is our key point that we want to talk about today. So what are some other opportunities? So as I said, economic-wise, you can have new business model. So for example, Airbnb, Uber, those are new business model, and it works well for many countries. I'm not saying that they are legal or not in Hong Kong, but I think they do give you a good alternative. And the second value, environmental, is very important, right? Because if we have less waste, then we are putting less harm to our environment. And the third is social. We are creating new jobs for the economy. So this is another diagram which also tell you what are some benefits of the circular economy from raw material, from building, from electric. So it really go across the whole spectrum. So now I will give you an example of how circular economy and SDG work. So one example, as I said, food waste is a big problem. So I will pick this SDG as a case study. So zero hunger. Okay. So if we look at globally, the food wastage, we have a lot of food wastage along all our supply chain, from distribution, consumption, processing. So just imagine you go to a buffet, right? And what happened to all those food that is not eaten, right? And even for processing, there's a lot of things that are going into waste. So here's another diagram how waste is wasted in the system, and hopefully we have some way to reduce that. And some way to think about is prevention. So in the hierarchy, you can see if you're wasting less raw material in making your thing, it will help the environment. And at the worst end of it is the waste is just going out without energy. So actually, in some countries, for example, in Taiwan, I think they do a fantastic job. A lot of the food waste are turned into raw material for making energy. So this is some way you can do it. And of course, there are different way. For example, the way the waste can be composted. I know in some hotels or restaurant, I know, for example, Hotel Icon, they have a very good waste compost system where the food waste is actually turned into water to water their plants. So it's possible. It just requires more technology and more skill. And there's a term called circular agrofood, where we have a close connection between a plant space and animal system. And that is one way we can improve the crop yields and reduce the waste in the ecosystem. So this is one example how circular economy. So for example, like the manure of the animal can be used as replenish the soil. This is one way how circular economy can help the SDG. And another example I want to give you is climate action, which is one I am really passionate about as well. So if you look at climate action, if we not look at circular economy, actually we won't be able to achieve the Paris Agreement goal, which limit our emission to 1.5 degrees. So the circular economy can actually help to tackle the overload 45% of the emission by transforming the waste goods are made and used. So this is a diagram. I don't know how many of you seen it. So if we do business as usual, we didn't do anything about the climate change, we are up to 4 degrees by now, our projection, that our Earth is warming up, and that's really not a good thing. The Paris Agreement suggests us to limit the temperature to 1.5%. And to do that, we need more than the national commitment. We need a circular economy to help to minimize our ecological footprint so we can close the gap on climate action. So there's another way to look at circular economy, and this is the resolve framework. So I show you just now a few principles of the circular economy, including recycle, reuse, and all that. There's also several ways you can look at it. You can look at regenerate, share, optimize, loop, virtualize, and exchange. And I'll give you concrete examples so you know what I mean. So here are some big brands. I think some of you will recognize what these brands are. And so I'll give you some example. So for example, Nespresso, I assume some of you have drink coffee from them. So actually Nespresso now, they come up with this pots. Before the coffee pots, if you use them, you throw them away and they're gone, the plastic. But now you can actually use that plastic, then they will remake it into like a pan or different products. And they collect the pots from the company so they can reuse and regenerate them. Another example, as I said, Airbnb. So instead of building more hotels, you can actually share apartment. So even though it's not technically legal now in Hong Kong, but I think in some other countries, it works really well. The third example is optimize. You can optimize the performance of your product. So you reduce less on that. So maybe Tesla is another example of that. You can also loop, so you recycle your materials. So Patagonia, as I said, if you, for example, have a used jacket, you can bring it to them and they will manufacture materials from those used products. And fertilize. So that's my favorite example. I know a lot of us watch a lot of Netflix during this lockdown. You can also dematerialize directly. So instead of giving a product, you're using a subscription service. And the final example is replace. So you can use new technology with advanced material. So you're using less new material. So these are some examples of brands who have been taking on circular economy. So for those of you who are not from Hong Kong and also want to learn more about the different world, these are different initiatives all around the world about circular economy. So as you can see, it's really a worldwide thing. So Mcalpha, which I mentioned, is very big in Europe. So in US, we have BCSD. In China, we have the Circular Economy Task Force on Guangzhou. So yes, if you, and again, as I said, this slide is available to you. You can go research more on this and how it's related to your own country. So we talk about Industry 4.0 now. There's a lot of big data, a lot of artificial intelligence we talk about, and actually all that can be used as enabling circular economy. When we have more smart data, smart supply chain, we can have an economy that's less waste, less resource, and less energy. These are some other business opportunity that come from it as well. So for example, the recycling waste can be reused. We can redesign product. We can have industries symbiosis. Again, as I said, we think in systems. So the circular economy, each company doesn't work in silo. What is considered maybe a waste from one company can be used as raw material for another company. So hopefully this circular economy is benefiting a lot of the businesses. However, having said that, of course, there are barriers. And these barriers include maybe financial costs. It include having new technology to recycle or reuse or manufacture material does take time. There's a social, so this is is a mental barrier. People are resistant to adopt that lifestyle or maybe reusing reused item. There's also institutional, and again, this is very deep-rooted. There are a lot of companies or governments who might not be willing to change. And then we have technical problems. How do we actually design something that are not disposing? You can reuse them. And there are also and it's also very common that people work in silo. So there's lack of information exchange, so people don't know how to do that. And there's lack of metrics. How do we actually measure the success of circular economy? So in Hong Kong, zooming back to Hong Kong, why do we need circular economy in Hong Kong? So first of all, we have a big waste problem. We only have a couple of landfills and it will be full within a few years. The public doesn't like incineration, but it's the only really large scale objective it is. As I said, we also have a very big waste problem other than our peer cities. And also a lot of our waste processing is not due in Hong Kong, it's actually due in China. So it doesn't add value to Hong Kong economy. So that's one problem. The second problem is whether it matches the government ambitions. So there's, as I said, there's some hope. The C's policy is that we want to carbon neutral by 2030. Invest Hong Kong is looking at building new technology. So there are some opportunities there. And also, there's a golden opportunity. So, for example, we can work with the companies in Greater Bay area to see if we have innovative technologies to treat waste or have this circular economy. Can we use this circular economy as an opportunity for infrastructure? Can we go from importing foreign provider of solutions to create an innovative sector for Hong Kong? So I think there are possibilities of circular economy in Hong Kong, and I'll show you two examples. So one example is Tea Park. I don't know how many of you been there. It's in Tuen Mun. It's a beautiful building. It's a sludge management facility. It's a green building. It's far enough for minimal environmental impact, and everything is circular. There's no external supply of water, electricity. Everything is regenerated from their own. They even reuse the timber from the old pier to create a cafe. So the reason I say it's a good facility, it's not just to go there to look at environmental stuff. There's actually a spa inside there. Now, there's also an education facility, and I'll show you some example. So this is a complicated diagram, but basically what this is saying is the incinerator, the turbine, and the condenser, they work together to recover heat energy to generate electricity to support the daily operation of the facility. So the whole facility is self-reliant. They don't really need to rely on extra sources. And this might be a sexy picture for you for the next one. There's a spa as well inside. So the spa there, the hot water is actually supported by the heating, as I showed you from the incinerator. So if you want to go there, I know it's probably not open right now, but when it is open, I strongly recommend you to take a visit. It is possible to have an industrial facility that's completely self-reliant. You just need to be very careful when designing it. And another example, which is very more day-to-day life, is Miu Miu. So I don't know if some of you have heard of them. They came out a few years ago. So they actually recycle this Tetra Pak, the packs we use for lemon tea, for milk, and they actually reuse them, regenerate them, and they produce tissue paper. They are a little bit more expensive than the normal one, but they are made from recycled fiber bathroom, so it's very good for the environment. So there are possibilities in Hong Kong. So I want to leave you with this quote: waste isn't waste until we waste it. Here are some resources for you. As I said, the ethics is a very good example of circular economy. You can also read on Mcalpha Foundation. There are also a few TED Talks online on circular economy. And if you want to know about the history of why stuff is bad for you, the YouTube video Story of Stuff is good. And there's also a Facebook group called Circular Economy in Hong Kong where you can find more information. So my official presentation is here, and I have a few questions for you. So if you pay attention to what I said, you will get this right. So let me unmute you all. Sorry, I mute you all so I can make sure to have the presentation. So please feel free to ask questions. I know I go through pretty quickly, but hopefully give you a good overview of what circular economy is.
The PM quality assurance that we put together would somehow help us to
Okay, somebody.
I think all in all, our BIS is getting to a point that.
Okay. Anybody have questions on what I presented so far? And please do answer the quiz. I think it helps you to help us to see whether you get what I said just now. I know it was very quick.